Minutes, are there any questions? I don't think there were any changes. All right, set public hearings, ordinance 234548, approved rezoning request 141223 for property located at 4200 Central Avenue, southwest from R5 single-family patio home to R6 single-family semi-attached residential district. Set public hearing for March 6, 2023 at 6 p.m. Any questions? Ordinance 234549, approved rezoning request 141323 for a tract of land from M1 Light Industry to B5 Central Business District located at portions of 400 and 500 Bank Street. Set public hearing for March 6, 2023 at 6 p.m. Any questions? All right, resolution 23014, approve abatement of unsafe conditions at 16 Cherry Street Northwest. Set public hearing for March 6, 2023 at 6 p.m. All right, I did have a couple of questions, David, if it's okay. We have gotten a lot of, or I have, and I think others have gotten a lot of feedback from Mr. Underwood about the property. He has said that he has a contract to sell it, and while this doesn't make sense to me, he says that if we were to set this public hearing tonight, it would put that sale in jeopardy. So that's kind of where we are. He's asked us to basically postpone this for 60 days or so, so he can go through his due diligence period to sell the property. I know there's a lot of history on this property. A lot of times that things have been said were going to happen that didn't, but I'll let you kind of take it from there.
Well, I think having looked at the contract, the clause in there that personally that I believe that he says that there's a condemnation by the on the property by a governmental entity. I believe that to be there if there was an actual condemnation such as a taking for, you know, a right of way or a portion of the property, not the condemnation of the structure. But that's my opinion. However, whatever the council decides to do is okay, but we would ask that if y'all could go ahead and just set the public hearing for the March date that we had asked for, that if y'all still see fit when the time for the public hearing comes around to move it from that point in an open meeting, that way we wouldn't have to start from scratch and redo what we've done thus far.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think that's all accurate. In his conversation with me, he just said if we set it tonight, he felt like that was going to cause him not to be able to sell.
I had the same conversation, real similar comments, and I spoke with the group on the other side too, and I think they had sent a new contract to Mr. Underwood in the last week or so on it.
The only one I've had the benefit of is the one that he sent us, and I have no way of knowing which is.
What's the harm in not setting the hearing tonight for next month?
The building will just be there a little longer.
And I'll just kind of want feedback from the other council members on your thoughts, if we just need to set it and move on, or
I think if he's under the impression that setting a condemnation hearing could jeopardize the sale, maybe we figure out, I mean, he's saying 60 days. If the sale doesn't go through and he doesn't make the repairs that community development's requiring, let's set it.
I think we should set the date as well today.
And I don't think set it today.
All right, I think we should set it today.
I'd support removing it from the March 6th agenda solely because
Don't want to jeopardize the sale.
it's been there. I think he's understanding that it needs to come down, but if he's got a sale on the property and that's the way he wants to move forward, I don't think we should jeopardize that. And again, if it doesn't close, I think we need to have a line in the sand essentially that says If it's not closed by this date, we will demolish it.
I haven't seen any proof that there is, that's my only objection.
That there is what?
That there's any proof of a sale that's
Well,
approaching.
There's a contract.
I have.
You have, I mean, I
And I
haven't had.
spoke with the party that intends to buy it,
That's, I guess
just to
that's-
confirm that there was a contract.
And I know we've been at the closing table before and it didn't happen, but I think it's in the city's best interest, in my opinion, to try to allow the property to change hands, if possible. But that's what I got from Mr. Underwood, but Herman, any thoughts?
Well, you got all kind of different options. I mean, you can set it like June tonight. Now, you can set it here in June. Or you, making sure, let's see, y'all are talking about in 60 days to come back, the council meeting and set it for a public hearing.
The following month.
That's right. And I told him that if we do that, if the council decides to do that, then you're getting 60 days. And he said, and if I don't get it done, it's on me and y'all do what you need to do, but we'll see what happens after 60 days. Any other comments or discussion? Sounds like generally we're okay with postponing 60 days to set the public hearing.
But it
Yes.
just be whatever, 2 months from.
Right. Whenever we would set it
60
in,
days.
in April.
Be April.
Yeah. All right, can we do that, David?
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. All right, any other discussion on that? So we will remove that item from the agenda. All right, resolution 23015, approve abatement of unsafe conditions at 322 11th Avenue Northwest, set public hearing for March 6, 2023 at 6 PM.
And no changes on that one.
All right, any questions or discussion? All right, public hearings, ordinance 234546, zoning request 141122, 2.5 acres located at 2210 8th Street Southwest. Public hearing was set January 3rd, 2023. All right, any questions? Resolution 23016, approve request for special event retail liquor license for WIT LLC doing business as JW Steakhouse on behalf of the Alabama Center for the Arts at 133 2nd Avenue Northeast, Decatur, Alabama 35601. Event date February 9th, 2023. Any discussion, questions? All right. We've got one weed abatement, assessed $285 against 411 3rd Avenue Southwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
No changes on that.
All right, any questions? Resolutions, resolution 23018, approve request for special use permit for AT&T to install equipment on an existing tower located at 105 14th Street Southwest.
No changes.
Any questions? Resolution 23019, approve request for a special use permit for AT&T to modify equipment on an existing tower located at 2611B Highway 31 South.
No changes.
Any questions? Resolution 23020, approve request for a special use permit for Verizon to install equipment on an existing tower located at 409 Bradley Street Southwest.
No changes.
Any questions? Resolution 23021, authorize the purchase of a CAT D6 dozer for the landfill operation. Any questions? Resolution 23022, approve Martin Aquatic for design of a master plan for Point Mallard Kid Play Area.
No changes unless the council has questions.
Any questions? Resolution 23023, approve partial bond reduction and refund for McGee Square Townhomes for completed portion of public improvements. Any questions? Resolution 23024, approve proposed site plan location for combined convenience and package store to be located at 914 19th Avenue Southeast. Any questions? Resolution 23025, approve purchase and installation of pedestrian crosswalk warning lights on 8th Street Southeast at Decatur Morgan General Hospital by Temple Inc.
No changes.
Any questions? Resolution 23026, approve street department engineering excavator purchase.
No changes.
Any questions? Approve Aldott City Agreements Lighting Project, SR 20 US 31.
No changes.
Resolution 23028, approve the replacement of the rubber safety surfacing at Delano Playground.
No changes.
Any questions? Resolution 23029, award bid number 23004 for pond management services to Aqua Services. Any questions? Resolution 23030, authorize the mayor to apply for Rebuild Alabama grant for intersection improvements at Old Moulton Road and the Beltline.
Yes, Mr. Ladner, Council, Mayor. When we did the resolution for approval for this grant, we just did we were estimating what that cost would be. We've since then got an updated cost estimate from CDG. I emailed that to you all today. But the total cost for the city's investment would be $717,346 for that project.
And that's essentially adding a left turn lane.
A dedicated left, right?
a
Dedicated
lane.
It is. There's, you got the CE&I, you've got right-of-way acquisition,
Utility relocation.
yeah, those things that, but still, one lane. And you know this, I just certainly don't want to make application and receive an award and then say no.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense.
But we haven't applied. This is to apply.
This is
That's
to
right.
Yeah,
apply.
okay, gotcha.
The one
All right.
thing that I would just, for informational purposes, I think it may be worth noting. This Aldott grant is a little different than most of the grants that we've received through Aldott. This grant would actually, once we give a notification to proceed to the contractor, Aldott will just cut us a check for the $250,000. It'll be locally let. We would not, 5 years from now, get a bill from Aldott for additional cost. I mean, it would be a locally let project, all of it would be done locally. It wouldn't go through the field or the district office at all.
All right, any other discussion? Resolution 23031, approved contract with First Due, a software company that provides RMS, which also includes fire and EMS incident reporting software. Okay, any questions? All right, Resolution 23032, approved DDRA bicycle stations agreement.
Well, there's an agreement that was agreed to, and it's been sent out. It's on the agenda, so it's very similar to what Governor Collins talked about last month.
All right, any discussion, questions? All right, ordinance's first reading, ordinance 23455, amend transient occupancy tax ordinance.
No change on that.
All right, any questions?
Of course, we got two sections involved. One section involves the corporate limit, the other section involves the police chief.
All right,
Jurisdiction's one half of the city.
any other questions? All right, we'll get started at 6.
Painted because it's not part of what we're doing. I can see it already. No, it's all right. I'm hoping we're working in well.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Dane Shaw will lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Father, we are grateful to come together tonight. We ask for your wisdom and your strength. We thank you for this city and what you mean to us, and we thank you for everything you've given us. In Jesus' name I pray. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Dane. All right, roll call.
Ladner.
Here.
McMaster.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Todd.
Here.
Pepper.
All right, we have quite a few people signed in for public comment, so we will start the meeting with public comment. And I'm just going to go in order, if that's okay, and if y'all want to switch the order, you can. And first on my list is Francis Tate, if you want to come first. I'm just going in order. Okay, you're good? All right, Betty Weaver, sorry, Gerald. Okay.
Good evening. Thank y'all for allowing me to come. My name is Betty Weaver. I live on Market Street in Northeast Decatur, and I've spent most all my years in this community in Decatur. And I'm here to speak to support the request of Quito for the financial support to move Judge Horton's home to the Scottsboro Boys Museum site. We've talked a lot about the economic impact that will happen here in Decatur when we make this museum, bring it to the fulfillment of what we hope it will be. But one of the things that I'm really interested in more than, excuse me guys, but economics is education. You can probably tell that I grew up in high school in the 60s. Now, until that time, I'd really never known much about Black history or about anything. Really, Gone with the Wind was my Black history education at that time. And I remember being at Putz Drive-In one night, and this long line of cars came down and had a cross on top of it that was lit up. And it was a Ku Klux Klan driving down 6th Avenue on the way to downtown for some kind of rally. And all of us kind of looking around. Now remember, we're teenagers, right? You know, we're going, well, what the heck? Well, isn't that terrible? And that was about the extent of our education or interest at the time, because we were more interested in what we were doing. Well, there is a lot of people in my generation. We went to segregated schools. Everywhere we went was segregated until we were, in college. And so we never had the benefit of a Black history class or any kind of tours of civil rights museums. We didn't know that, and really it didn't affect us, so it was really easy to keep our heads in the sand. My children, when they were in college, actually I never remember us having a civil rights discussion in my home with my children. But when they were in college, they went to the museum in Montgomery. And they came back and they told me it had changed their lives. They never knew about the atrocities or the injustices that had been perpetrated on fellow Americans for over a century. That made me think about it a little bit more, and I thought, well, gosh, really, are we teaching Black history? Did they learn anything about it? Did they learn the Civil War that I was taught about, how it was all about economics, had nothing to do with slavery? That's what I was taught. What did my children learn? I don't know. What are our children learning today? I don't know. And so I think when then I sat back, I was at a meeting one night where Francis was talking about, Francis Tate, and she was talking about her vision for the Scottsboro Boys Museum. I had never heard of the Scottsboro Boys trial. Now, that's a terrible thing to admit. It shows ignorance on my part. But I didn't really have any reason to know about it. But I became very interested and fascinated in it. And since then, Now, you can see that in 2018, that was pretty late in my life to kind of start thinking, I need to be a little more involved. I need to care more. I need to see what I can do. So I started telling Francis, I want to help. What can I do? So I got involved, and I've read about the Scottsboro Boys trial. And I mean, I'm humiliated. I'm ashamed. It's horrible to believe what we as fellow Americans have done to other fellow Americans. The Scottsboro Boys is just one example of thousands of injustices among African Americans in history. Thousands were falsely accused, and unlike the Scottsboro Boys, never received any kind of justice, although their justice was not very good, and they were executed. The impact of the Scottsboro Boys the impact it had on America was profound. The trials of the Scottsboro Boys, the two Supreme Court verdicts that trial produced, and the uproar over their treatment helped fuel the rise of what I saw in 1960. This took place in the 30s, 30 years later. But that was the beginning of a justice reform. Came out of the Scottsboro Boys trial in Decatur, Alabama, with Judge Horton having the courage to stand up and to do the right thing. We have the opportunity to share this story to the thousands of visitors, and I mean thousands of visitors who are going to visit the museum, but we can ensure that my great-grandchildren get educated through school programs and tours that will be developed as part of the museum. You know, regardless, thank God we're not in Florida. I hope we have Black History courses going on now in schools. I don't know because I don't have children there. But in case we don't, or it ever gets where we don't, we'll have museums where we can go to and we can learn the true story. This is our way of sharing the impact this trial made in the history of Decatur and Judge Horton's part in it. Judge Horton's home, located at the museum, will be an important addition to the story. We need everyone's support. We need the council's support in giving the financial money that we need to make it happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Weaver. I forgot to tell Ms. Weaver, so we gave her some grace. We do limit public comment to 3 minutes.
Oh,
But you did great. You did great. You're good.
You always have to limit me.
I didn't tell you that, so I'm sorry. But we do try to limit to 3 minutes, so you'll hear an alarm go off at 3 minutes and just try to wrap up after that.
I'm sorry.
And I also see where you numbered who was supposed to go in what order, and I apologize for that. But Gerald, if you want to go, that's fine with us.
Good evening, and boy, such a rich crowd. Thanks a whole lot for coming out for your support, with your support rather. I can do it in 3 minutes. Here we go. Last week we talked about the opportunity for Decatur to actually join the big numbers on the Civil Rights Trail. Birmingham, Montgomery is right there. Decatur's story is just as rich as that. So what we're going to do is work toward Decatur being the gateway to the Civil Rights Trail, because you're coming out of the north into the south. First thing you hit is Decatur. What I'd like to do quickly is to do just a quick update on some things that came up with the council last week. And by the way, thank you, Councilman and Mayor. I should have said that at first. Going further, the update is basically indicating that there were a couple of concerns last week as we actually spoke. One was a buy-in from other entities of the community. I'm proud to inform you that the Morgan County Hospitality Association has pledged $250,000. That means the city will ask you for a little less money, about $950,000. The next is the attendance projections. Well, we presented to the council attendance projections where we look to see probably 120,000 our first year, moving to about 250,000 in the 5th year. We feel that that's very, very conservative, but we'd rather be conservative, do more than we actually project. The next was an executive director. We have our radar on one. Soon, as we talk it through with the board, we'll have someone possibly qualified with decades of museum and related experience. And the next one is the urgency of it. The Horton family is here tonight to reiterate the fact that we need to get this done because we're not the only one in line for this. Decatur, if we miss this, we should be ashamed of ourselves. Thank you very much.
All right, I've got Robert next on my list.
Thank you very much. My name is Robert Ball. I practice law in Birmingham, but I'm a proud 1975 graduate from Decatur High School. And so there really are two reasons why I've been working on this project. Number one, as a Decatur native, I think this is a really important, positive project for the entire community. And so as somebody who grew up here, I just think this is a fabulous opportunity for the city. Secondly, I come at this as a lawyer and someone who's taught constitutional law at UAB, and I've just always had an interest in constitutional law. So I was asked to just briefly talk about the cases. You know, Powell versus Alabama was the first time that the U.S. Supreme Court said that the due process clause of the Bill of Rights applies to the states to say that you're entitled to a lawyer if you're charged with a capital crime. That's the first time that's ever happened. And again, we all know about the Bill of Rights applying to the federal government, but that's the first time it was applied to a state. And so that was a really big deal, and it's had huge impact in the legal history in our country. After that, the cases came back from Scottsboro, were transferred over here to Decatur, and they were tried. And that's where Judge Horton entered his order after the jury came back with a guilty verdict after only 5 minutes. And Judge Horton knew that that was just a complete injustice. He set it aside, and as we know, it cost him his career. He was never elected as a judge after that. So then the cases went on with the trials, and there was the Norris case. And that was an interesting case because what that went up to the U.S. Supreme Court on was the fact that black people were excluded from the juries. And what's interesting about that case is you had a lot of people from the black community here in Decatur, professionals and others, that came in and offered testimony that they were qualified to serve on the juries. And so it's an interesting opportunity to tell what the community was like back here in the 1930s here, and that there was a thriving black community of professionals and other people who were well qualified to serve on the jury. So those are what the two cases are that came out of this. And it's a tragic tale because you have the great story of Judge Horton, but you also have the injustice. You realize these folks served collectively about 130 years in prison for these crimes that everyone agrees they did not commit. The other interesting thing is these trials were the most notorious. Think of the biggest cases that go on over the last 15, 20 years. These trials got just as much publicity. They were known nationwide. They were reported on throughout the entire country. But what's funny is now when you ask people about it, lawyers throughout the state, wherever, you just don't hear much about this. So that's what I think is exciting about this project, is it allows Decatur to tell this story and remind people of what happened and how important this was on a nationwide basis. So I'm 100% in support of these. I think in support of this museum. I think there's a lot that can be done, and I think bringing Judge Horton's home back here will be a great part of that, and it's a great story for Decatur, and I think has great opportunity for Decatur.
Thanks, Robert. Joel, I've got you next.
Scribbled over half of this. Another 3 minutes. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak for a few moments. I'm going to just read what I wrote to keep my comments clear and concise, hopefully. My name is Joel McCarty. I am first and foremost and unashamedly a follower and servant of Jesus. I'm also a husband to Christy and father to 4 wonderful children. I also have the privilege of serving as a pastor at a young church here in Decatur, right over here on Bank Street, New Eden Church. We love being a part of this community. Did not grow up in Decatur, but we have only been here a few years. We've already fallen in love with it. When my family and I were exploring where we wanted to settle and raise a family, one of the main attractions to Decatur was its diversity. We love the downtown development. We love the riverfront. We love the many parks. But to be honest, you can find that stuff in a lot of different cities. I wanted my kids to be raised in a city where they would experience and interact with many different cultures. So why not move to the city with the most diverse school systems in the state? My oldest son plays youth sports, most recently with City Council President Ladner's son. Don't ask him how often I yell when I'm coaching their games. But I love that on any given season, his team will be represented by a variety of ethnicities and socioeconomic backgrounds. There is a real beauty to the diversity of Decatur. However, that being said, I'm not naive to think that diversity means that there is unity and justice and equal opportunity for all. Walls of division that were built over 300 years and embedded into the fabric of a society are not torn down overnight. It takes active steps to do that. So how do we work towards unity and justice in the face of these realities? How do we move closer to what I believe is how God designed communities to function and flourish, which is through diverse people living next to and caring for each other and working toward a common good? As a follower of Jesus, I believe that truth-telling is a key part of the work of justice and flourishing for a community. And that's what this museum, this house included, is proposing, to be a part of telling the good, the bad, and the ugly about our history so that we might work toward a better future together. I think this is regardless of economic impact. I think it's good that the board has done their due diligence in bringing forth that information, but to be honest and blunt, I don't think that's relevant. If the museum and the Horton House does not bring the city a dime, but it inspires boys and girls and fathers and mothers and shows them a picture of what can happen when people from every socioeconomic status and ethnicity and background come together, then that is well worth the money that we spend. Side note, I would argue that we can't have a real conversation about economic impact without talking about how many black business owners and community leaders were driven out of our city to places like Nashville because of the Scottsboro Boys trials and the way they were mishandled. And I think that this investment is an opportunity to repair a small part of that damage. So in close, I don't think there's a better time to get this done than Black History Month. I know there's a lot of processes, don't know if it can happen in the month of February, but I do want to speak on the urgency of this. So for a majority white city council to come underneath a predominantly black-led nonprofit and trust them to use these funds to tell a very important story would speak volumes and I think go a long way in our work toward justice and truth-telling. My dream for my 4 kids is not to grow up and get out of Decatur. It is for them to invest their lives here, to raise their kids here, and I hope that this one small step would work toward a community where my kids and grandkids could experience the flourishing city that can come as diverse people work together for the greater good. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. Francis, you're the only one I had left if you want to, I think. Is there anyone else that came to speak on this issue? I don't think I have anyone. You want to speak on this issue? Do you want Mr. Underwood to speak before you, Ms. Tate? Sure. All right, go for it. 3 minutes.
I'll be brief. I have a statement and a quote. Let us not forget Tommy Lee Hines,
Amen.
1978,
Yes.
accused in the same, under the same overtures as the Scottsboro Boys here in Decatur in our lifetime. And let's stand and celebrate. For the quote is attributed to Francis Tate. Herbert, someone has to take responsibility for work. And I don't, because we are working. And work is a 4-letter word, and you will get your mouth washed out with soap. Thank you.
Ms. Tate?
Francis Tate, what can I say? I think you all understand the importance of the Scottsboro Boys Civil Rights Museum to the city of Decatur. So I'm just here to appeal to you to help us to bring this project to fruition, support, and approve our request. And I just want to express the urgency of this project to move Judge Hoyt's home to the city of Decatur. And I think the community at large is in total support of the Scottsboro Boys Museum. I think you see that. And I want to thank all of them for being supportive of this project. And thank you in advance for supporting the project. Because we simply cannot pass up this opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Chase. And I would just add, I hope you have seen support. We're trying to move the process, and we can't, as most of you know, but we have to have a dollar amount, and we got to work through some things, and we got to put it in a resolution that can be advertised and vote. And I think we have time to do that, and we'll make sure it's not a lot of time. I understand that, but we'll work towards getting something that we can vote on in the near future. So that's the goal. All right, I think that's everybody that I had signed up for the Horton House and COTA. We do have other public comment. If you don't want to stay, I'll give you a minute to leave unless you want to stay. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
I think Miss Tate did a really good job with that.
All right, we'll just keep moving down the list. Miss Andrea Hoffmeyer Wilson is next on my list.
My lovely assistant is distributing some fun reading material for you. So, okay, so when does my timer start?
Right now.
Okay. So thank you so much for allowing me to have just a few minutes. My name is Andrea Hoffmeyer Wilson. I live at 1306 Carradale Street Southwest. I am the co-founder of a global nonprofit called Sherpa Institute. We work with the United Nations and communities all around the world on a topic that I'd like to discuss tonight for the city of Decatur. We have a handful of personal stories and expert insights tonight about homelessness in Decatur. Most of those are under 2 minutes in time. We'd like to broaden the lens tonight beyond mental health as the perceived primary issue of homelessness. But there's two other things that we want to primarily talk about. We would invite City Council and Mayor Tab Bowling to collaborate with us. And by us, I mean a growing coalition. We've been talking with a lot of different organizations throughout North Alabama and throughout the state. So we're looking for collaboration from the city to follow the model that was established by the City of Montgomery Mayor's Task Force on Addressing Homelessness, which details the many issues related to homelessness, here it is, that are beyond just mental health. The great news is that we do not have to reinvent the wheel because this task force has been running for over 7 months and they have a great catalog of findings and future efforts. We've already been in contact with them and they've offered to share their insights. Also, we would ask that you join us, again, this growing collective, in efforts to secure grant funds. We are not talking about tax dollars here. The city has this expertise in-house, and we are going to be going after, collectively, many organizations, state and federal funds that are not currently equitably distributed to Decatur because the North Alabama Region 503 for the Continuum of Care, that's the federal umbrella, is now administrated through the city of Huntsville. It's no longer administrated through NATCH, which is the North Alabama Coalition for the Homeless. Did you know that all of the most recent $400,000 awarded that was intended for North Alabama by Governor Kay Ivey in December has gone exclusively to Huntsville organizations, nothing to Decatur. So in the face of the future growth of Decatur that we applaud you for pursuing, we invite you to collaborate with us on pursuing equitable funds for Decatur that are intended for North Alabama. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Next on my list is, I think, Herbert Hunter. Is that right?
Yes,
Herbert.
Doc Hunter, but Herbert Hunter's
Okay.
fine.
If you can just give your name and address, and we'll do 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. My name is Herbert Langston Hunter. I go by Doc. I live at 111 Kane Street Southeast in Decatur. I volunteer at Hands Across Decatur. I mostly work on their computer systems, their IT and whatnot. I am not the people person, so now I'm going to give you a bunch of statistics about what HAD has done specifically in January of 2023. This is all in the past month. They have given 683 warm meals to various people. There have been about 103 people that came in that month. 120 of those meals were taken by the work release crew for the Alabama Department of Work Corrections. So people coming from the prison in Decatur and needing to be fed at Hands Across Decatur. We've given 167 sack lunches to various people that they can take and distribute as they need or eat themselves. We've given 123 survival bags. Those have some food in them. They might have toiletries in them. They've got various things. We've given 76 specific toiletry kits. People need toothbrushes, people need shampoo, or it becomes very hard to live. That we have received 76 phone calls from people now asking for help or assistance with shelters, most of them due to evictions. And so homelessness isn't just a problem that exists, it's a problem that develops constantly. 14 calls for people that just need help with gas money, getting to or from work or groceries or wherever. 27 calls asking for assistance with rent, trying to stop themselves from becoming homeless. 11 calls asking for assistance with medication, some sort of prescription that they've received. And then 11 calls from people that just haven't been able to reconnect with family members, and Hands Across Decatur is now one of the sources that people first go to say, I'm not sure where my uncle is. Nobody's been able to see him for a week. Let's see if he's doing okay. In just items that we've given away in the past month, 500 people received 121 pairs of pants, 164 pairs of socks. It continues. Hundreds of shirts, hundreds of pairs of underwear, 76 sweatshirts. We're giving lots of cold weather clothing in this time because we were, I think, the only place open for the 23rd through the 27th, and it was extraordinarily cold. We've run out of sleeping bags, we've run out of tents, and we've run out of bikes. And so it's a lot of things that facilitate just the lowest, barest level of living, not the lowest level of living, but transportation, food, medication. I don't think that it is unreasonable to try to facilitate them getting from a standard of living lower than what we currently have to something approaching closer to us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Phil Porter.
My My name is Phil Porter. Everybody hear me?
Yes,
Okay, good. I'm glad they didn't ask me to sing the Minute Waltz. You'd all be puking. But at any rate, I don't know if you all realized it, but Decatur is in the Guinness Book of World Records. You know what it's in the Guinness Book of World Records for?
One time it was most churches per capita.
That's correct. Excellent, excellent. Decatur has the most number of churches per square mile of any city in the nation, if not the world. So might I suggest this council, including the mayor, represents a very spiritual group of people in this city, all right? And in that regard, I just wanted to get up. I'm speaking for Hands Across Decatur, but I'm also speaking for nonprofits in general, all right? And I just felt a strong unction in the spirit to quote Solomon. And I think he said, he that lendeth to the poor shall never want, all right? And then there's another time where Solomon said that he that withholdeth more than is fitting, it tendeth to poverty, all right? And all we're asking the Decatur City Council members to do is to, you know, kind of think about, in a general sense, if there's any way that you can help not only Hands Across Decatur, but any group that's helping others, all right? And in that sense, when we talk about a return on investment, that's a pretty good return on investment when you have the Holy Spirit on your side. And you start talking about crime, you look at all these revivals that have occurred over the years, and it seems like crime just kind of goes to zero, you know, when you get the presence of the Lord. So all right, that's all I wanted to say, and that's less than 3 minutes, I think, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Andrea Bryant.
Hello, I'm going to be reading. It's my first time speaking. I'm Andrea Bryant. My address is 6022 3rd Avenue, Southwest Decatur. Hello, everyone. I'd like to tell you briefly about myself. My name is Andrea Bryant. I'm 36 years old. A year ago, I lost my home, my husband, my mom, my job, and my car, all in a matter of 2 months in time. This resulted with me being in a very dark place. I have never shared this before in public. However, I felt led to share this with you here today. I'm here tonight to tell you that not all who are without a home are addicts, drunkards, or belong in mental institutions. Some of these people are veterans that served the United States military. I am one of them. My devastating, life-changing loss helped me find God and have faith in His destiny for me. This led me to Decatur, Alabama, where I met my family at Hands Across Decatur. If it was not for the love of these people, I would not have found myself and the love I needed to pull myself back up. I now give back by helping them daily, and I don't expect anything in return. They are my family. The point of sharing my story is not about look at me. It is focused on statements that the councilman made recently stating that there is not much the city can do about the homelessness, and they don't promote homelessness. And it's more about mental health and addiction more than not having a house issue. I know that I did not, nor do most other unhoused citizens who I have encountered during my time of being homeless, cause events beyond their control, saying to themselves, I want to be homeless. The city promotes it. It sounds like fun to live outside in a tent in pouring rain, temperatures below zero in the wintertime, and summer heat above 100 degrees. I have never heard of Googling to find out where the best homeless camps are and which ones are promoted. You are elected officials and are elected to lead. The community members whom you represent are constituents and your employers. In the armed forces, the officers help to assist the enlisted men and women to build them up so they can come together to protect the country. If you are a true leader, you're not promoting homelessness. Instead, you are showing you care about all your community enough to bring them together and show you do care. One caring word can change a whole person's day. It shouldn't be about how it looks if you help the homeless, or the money it may take to do so. I mean, our mayor was set to spend a substantial amount of money on a new sound system and lighting system for a venue that is a couple of months out of the year, weather permitting. Homelessness is a 24 hours a day, 7 days per week, 365 days per year in all kinds of weather. It should be about the fact that you care about us, all of us, because we are people too. The unhoused community shouldn't have a label on them. We all have problems that we face, including yourselves. If you don't show your community, the community who elected you, that you care about all of them, including ones in poverty, then that is what your community starts to have higher crime rates, drug abuse, suicides, etc. The unhoused citizens hear you aren't worthy of your help so much that they believe that no one loves them and they don't matter to the world, so they give up on life. By simply feeding a meal or even just getting them out of the heat or the cold and show them that they are cared for goes a long way. It can even save a life, someone who may be on the brink of suicide. Recently, there was a homeless veteran who Limestone Sheriff's Department brought to HAD recently because he didn't know where else to take them. And 211 didn't give them answers. He didn't know where to take them, so he brought them to us. The veteran just needed someone to care for, and we reunited him with his family. That is what is wrong with the world today. Everyone is against each other and judgmental of each other instead of helping each other as we are instructed to do. If for one moment a true leader can think outside of themselves and think about all others, it would make a difference in this world. It's like making one small change and planting that mustard seed, which is the smallest seed in the world when planted, but it grows to be magnificent, producing millions of seeds. All it takes is to sow that one tiny seed.
Thank you.
Before you walk away, I have a question for you. How long were you homeless?
I was homeless for it's more of this. I had a vision of God. It's kind of like he knocked me down to bring me back up. And when I had the vision, I've been on faith with him and traveling with him. And I just rely on his faith to be able to talk to other homeless people. I've been in Dallas, Houston, Baton Rouge, California, and it was all on faith. God provided all the way there. I didn't have to ask for anything. And I talk to homeless people and try to bring them to that light. So the answer to your question, it's been about a year.
So I first off, thank you for your service to the country, to our country. How did you get out of being homeless? You stayed at an address. Is that your residence?
Yeah, I stay at a residence. I'm still in homelessness. It's kind of just a temporary stay. Like I said, I just go where God leads me to, and I talk to people, and I try to help the homeless community out. And when I came back from LA, I came back because I was here in the beginning of the year, and then I went and did all of the missionary work up that way, and I came back because these are some great people, and God just led me to come down here. And that was probably about a month or two ago, and then this situation arose, and the cold weather is permitting, like when the cold weather is 5 days, I was there to help them through that too. So God just led me here back to the spot.
Thank you.
Courtney Carmack, if I'm reading it right.
My name is Courtney Carmack. I'm the founder of Quality of Life Care Team. We started Quality of Life several years ago, not only to be a fast response team for our homeless population, but also to facilitate and be of aid to organizations like Hands Across Decatur, who step up and act in service for our homeless community. Our goal was to work together in the community to form partnerships with others so that efforts can make a broader impact, and we've done that with Hands Across Decatur. We've worked in several different cities trying to focus our efforts on how to help our homeless community move forward. In Huntsville, we furnished low-income apartments for homeless veterans for some of the unhoused that who qualified through homeless programs in Huntsville. The homeless organizations in Huntsville and Florence have, I'm sorry, I hate public speaking. The homeless in Huntsville and Florence have substantial assistance through grants received from the state and federal government. We don't have that assistance in Decatur, even though there is a paid grant writing staff within the city government. Ty Oswald's here with me from Huntsville. We work hand in hand. We brought the first shower up day to Decatur. when we do things like that, we have to pull resources in from Huntsville, Athens, Florence. So I wanted him to be able to come and speak today, just to kind of show you how we have to kind of move outside of the city to be able to do what we want to do here in Decatur. So this is Ty Oswald with Bearded Warriors.
Hey everybody, my name's Ty Oswald. I'm a U.S. Army vet. I'm the founder of Bearded Warriors. It's a veteran suicide prevention nonprofit on paper in Huntsville. With that, we've had a heavy hand in the homeless community for the past 4 years. Our team has provided aid to our homeless community, repaired broken tents, washed clothes, given showers, given rides, provided bus passes, eaten, and provided all kinds of other services to the homeless. I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying this, it takes a village. We couldn't have done this in Huntsville without countless community partnerships, and we've worked with the Home Depot Foundation, Shower Up Huntsville and Nashville, 2820 or the Living Room off of Governor's Drive, First Stop, local churches, and other organizations and businesses, including the fire department and police department, and the list still goes on. I've worked multiple events with Sue and her team at Hands Across the Desert. Sue is very knowledgeable and more than capable of not only providing for Decatur's homeless community, but the community as a whole. She's already managed to pull together everybody you see here, and it's truly impressive to watch her work through the events, providing assistance to each and every person for exactly what they need. If you've not been fortunate enough to do this in person, I would urge you to contact her to see how you can help. The statistics are sobering that every night thousands of people are forced to live in the streets, shelters, or even in their cars. This number includes entire families with children, veterans, and the elderly. It's heartbreaking to think that one of the wealthiest nations in the world, that there are people sleeping without a roof over their head. There's a limited number of times in a person's life that they're given a chance to truly make a change and an impact in an entire community. Decatur has one of those opportunities now, and it's time for everybody to stand together and figure out a better way to provide assistance with those that are unhoused or struggling to be unhoused. You're not alone in this endeavor. Your neighbors at Huntsville are always willing to help a hand. Thanks.
Thank you for your service to our country.
All right, Jessica Guest.
Hello. My name is Jessica Guest, and I live on 5th Street, Northeast in Decatur, Southeast in Decatur. My name is Jessica Guest. I was recently released from jail after serving 6 months in the Morgan County Jail. When you're released from the Morgan County Jail after being there that long, you're released in a paper suit and a pair of slides. They donate your clothes after being there for 14 days. I'm not giving this story to get sympathy. The purpose of my brief story is to share this. I am now homeless without an ID. I cannot get a job without an ID. I cannot get an ID without my birth certificate and my social security card. And after I get those things, I cannot get a decent house because I have a felony conviction and I have no credit. I don't want to be around the same environment I was when I was arrested. I want to be on my own again, living on my own. How do I do this when I feel like I'm set up for failure? We need affordable housing without being on a waiting list for a year, based on our ability to pay rent and not our arrest records or our less than perfect credit. We need safe, affordable public transportation to help us reach our goals and succeed. We need the help to help ourselves. Where do we go when I have nowhere to go and I'm ready to not need help anymore?
Thank you. I try to give grace.
Hi, my name is Sue Terrell. I'm founder and director of Hands Across Decatur. We founded it in 2012. Sadly, our homeless friends, including some veterans, elderly, and disabled, are often perceived as invisible, worthless, hopeless, and throwaway citizens. They are indeed our invisible community. Behind the scenes ahead, here's what you don't see. 100% of Hands Across Decatur staff are volunteers, including myself. 75% of the community we assist are unhoused. 20% of the community we assist do have housing that bleeds their pockets dry after they pay their rent and utilities. We feed them and provide them with what we can. 5% of the community we serve are passing through Decatur, living in their cars, simply looking for a hot meal, a hot shower, change of clothes, and some place to really be for a while. 80% of our volunteers are themselves without shelter or have been. They give back without being asked, and if asked to help, they do without hesitation. We've had 2 instances from a local police departments having sought our assistance to identify dead bodies. On one occasion, via a photo of deceased tattoos. Another occasion, to identify a body via postmortem photo. We were able to identify one of them. We've had 7 deaths and 7 funerals in the past 6 months. 1 was a vet, 2 were suicide. We have countless hospital visits to our in-house community members who have no one else to call. Some wanting someone just there to speak with them, with doctors on their behalf. And I was with Jessica during one of those times. Countless phone calls and texts at all hours, sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning, from our in-house community simply wanting to share some good or bad news they have, or just to talk or text. Countless hours are spent daily looking for donations and volunteers to enable us to make ends meet to continue our housing community. 60% is the estimate of how many of our unhoused do suffer from mental health illness, not requiring hospitalization. Just like 80% of our housed community does, whether it be PTSD, depression, or anxiety issues. You don't need beds for that. Our in-house community is left untreated due to lack of regular medical care and lack of insurance to indigent persons, unless the person's incarcerated. It's a bad reason when I go to jail to get medication. 0. That's the number of homeless to qualify for the community free clinic. Having a 0 income disqualifies you from the free clinic. 12 hours per visit is the average amount of time spent waiting at hospitals periodically with mentally unstable persons waiting to be triaged via Skype interview. We go with them, we stay with them. 10 hours is the time spent in an ER with a homeless gang rape victim who was transported to Huntsville because we don't have any rape kits here in Decatur. If we go with them, we stay with them. She was homeless, not from the area, and without insurance. No victim's advocate was called. She's not from the area, and no police interview was conducted. I was told to take her home, which just happened to be the scene of the gang rape and her primary abuser. I refused. They admitted her to the hospital. This happened to you or I? Confirming the homeless population is extremely difficult because of the lack of a clear definition of homelessness, the mobility of the population, and the cyclical nature of homelessness to many individuals. If we're working together, we can make this work together and everyone work together. We're not asking for taxpayer dollars. We're going to come together as a community to assist us obtaining grants with your grant department. We are all worthy of being visible, even our unhoused and underserved. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's everyone I had signed in, and I have left people off before, so if you signed in and I missed you, let me know now. All right, we're going to move into the agenda. Feel free to stay. It's going to be riveting, I'm sure. Or you can leave, and if you want to leave, we'll give you a few minutes to exit. See you, Joel. All right, we will move into the agenda. First, we have approval of minutes.
So moved.
Hold on one second. We're going to take A and E separately and B, C, and D. So A and E first.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Louder.
Aye.
McMaster. Jackson.
Abstain.
Aye. Pepper.
Aye.
Those A and E are approved 4-0 with one abstention. We'll take B, C, and D.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Louder.
Aye.
McMaster. Jackson.
Aye.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Those B, C, and D approved 5-0. Next, we have set public hearings. Ordinance 23-4548, approved rezoning request 141223 for property located at 4200 Central Avenue Southwest from an R5 single-family patio home to an R6 single-family semi-attached residential district. Set public hearing for March 6, 2023, 6 p.m.
Yes, this is a property on Central Avenue, an existing subdivision under construction. Shifting Markets has the developer coming back now seeking to change his plan for this development, requiring this rezoning, and this was recommended for approval.
All right, any questions? All right, next is ordinance 23-4549, approved rezoning request 141323 for a tract of land from M1 Light Industry to B5 Central Business District located at portions of 400 and 500 Bank Street. Set public hearing for March 6, 2023 at 6 p.m.
Yes, this is several properties on both the 400 and 500 block. A developer has recently purchased all of these properties and consolidated them, and this is to kind of clean up the zoning and get it all into the common B5 downtown zoning.
Okay.
And this was also recommended for approval.
All right, any questions? All right, we did remove C, so we'll move to D. Resolution 23015, approve abatement of unsafe conditions at 322 11th Avenue Northwest. Set public hearing for March 6, 2023 at 6 p.m.
We're just setting that, but we have a person who is in discussions with Mr. Matthews on this property, so I guess we can set it still, but we're just going to make sure that when that time comes, we'll have a better answer at that particular point.
If y'all are good with setting it, we would just ask that whoever that person is, contact us as soon as possible so that we can just figure out if we've got something viable going here.
Sounds good. Okay.
All right, any questions, discussion? Thanks, David. So we will set that for March 6, 2023, 6 p.m. All right, public hearings, ordinance 23-4546, zoning request 141122, 2.5 acres located at 2210 8th Street Southwest. Public hearing was set January 3rd, 2023.
Yes, this is a property that was recently annexed into the city and seeking an R4 zoning for this property. This was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
So moved. Sorry, public hearing.
This is a public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak on this item, you can speak now. All right, seeing no one to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
When we annexed this property, it was said by you, Jacob, actually, that you would not block growth in the city of Decatur. Now, this is on 8th Street and is backed up to Old Moulton Road. Is that accurate? It's the name of that street.
Moulton Heights.
Where we have the Old Moulton Heights. And my concern, very simply, is that if we're going to build apartments there in an area that is one of our more rundown areas, it's an area where we have had habitual dumping of trash in that particular area of our city, that whoever's going to build it there, is it you? Okay, whoever's going to build it there is really not concerned about longevity of a quality product. I'm sure you'll have time to talk. We're in a public hearing. But that's my concern. And I do believe that not all growth is good. A tumor is a growth. It's not good for you. So I think that in this particular situation, this is not going to be beneficial for the community. We had basically, I don't want to say a mandate, but we had pretty much a moratorium on doing apartments in that particular area of our city, which is in District 1, because of the fact that we have such a high number of absentee landlords in that community. Community has been adversely impacted by
absentee landlords, and this is absolutely a concern not only of mine now, but it's been a concern of ours in the planning department and community development for many years in the past. So at this particular point, I will not support this tonight.
I would like to respond just to the comment about I wouldn't stop. I mentioned that in regards to annexation.
That's what I answered.
And the reason, and I feel like one way that before a property is annexed, we don't have any control over trash and those things being dumped. And when we do annex it, then we do have those controls in place to help manage that. And then if development happens, it really helps mitigate that issue. So I stand by those comments that I haven't seen the case yet that I would stand in the way of annexation for a lot of those very same reasons. But
my concern is very simply that 10 years from now, it's going to be a drain on our police department, on that community that it's resting in, and I think that we're going to have problems in that particular development.
So is that I'm just curious to know, is that the only reasoning that you have that you're not supporting this, or is there another point?
Not a good enough reason?
I think that your reason is invalid personally, but
It's what now?
I think your reasoning is invalid.
How is it invalid?
Well, you said it's going to be a drain on our police department. Excuse me, I don't know your name, sir. How many apartments are you planning? Is that what you said it is?
My name's Danny Hill. I'm the builder.
Danny, if you don't
I'm
mind,
asking him a question though. Can you let him answer?
but he's got to come to the podium.
Okay, come to the podium here. Come join us.
Absolutely.
How many apartments are you planning to build there?
There's 3 8-unit builders. There's 24 units that's being
24
built there.
units. 24 units.
I'm not the owner. I am the builder.
Okay. Okay.
And the owner is someone who is very well established in our community that has a lot of rental property, a lot in your district, Mr. Jackson. And I can assure you they'll not tolerate an issue. They actually own the building that's in front of them right there in the white, and this is going to be right behind that, which they run a event center there.
So 24 units, I'm guessing they're going to be what, 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, if that?
They're all 2-bedroom, 2-bath, every one of them.
So of course, I would assume that most single families are not going to put that many individuals inside one of these in these apartments. But if his only argument is that it's going to put a drain on our police department, there is a massive amount of apartment complexes in the city of Decatur, including in my district. Actually, I think I have one of the largest apartment communities in the city, if I'm not mistaken, the largest in the city, and it does not put a drain on our police department. And I just think that that's a very invalid argument, and I think that any residential growth that we see in the city of Decatur is a great thing. We're trying to grow our police department. We're trying to grow many other aspects of our city government right now. So I hope that him not supporting this hopefully this will change his mind.
Let me say this. Before they were built, Stonegate Apartments, and they came in as AME Apartments, were proposed as a quality apartment unit that was going to bring affordable housing to people who live there. And that turned out to be one of the most damaging things, not only to that community, but to this city. And that is my concern, that we're very close to where Stonegate was. We are, and there was a reason that our planning department and our community development department had taken a position against apartments and rental property in general in that particular community. And so it's not just me, and it's been our city for so many years up until this point. And so if we prove this, if we approve this, then it will be going against a way that we have addressed rental property in that particular portion of our city for decades now. So again, this council will do whatever it sees fit, but when, and I'm sure that, well, I don't want to say that, but when the time comes that someone needs to take responsibility for the rundown area and the crime that I think is going to come with that, then I hope that this council and these council members will stand up if they support it.
And I understand your concern because I've been in the city my entire life as well. I remember Stonegate real well. I remember when it was built. I mean, I grew up basically on West Moulton Street. I mean, I know the community very well. It went to Section 8. It went to low-income housing. This is not that. This is conventional. So, you know, this is an owner who is deep rooted in rental properties. They have a lot of them in town, so.
So were the owners of Stonegate, by the way.
I have a question. Chief, I don't want to drag you into this. Sorry. But I've a weird question here. How much of crime do you think is preventable? Can you answer that question? How much, or I guess I might not be asking the question correctly. Do you think the majority of crimes that do happen are preventable? And if so, can you give me an explanation as to why?
You don't know is a fine answer.
You don't know is a fine. That's a perfect answer with me. I just want an answer.
I mean, can you take precautions to try to help prevent crime? Yes.
Absolutely.
But to sit here and say that we can prevent every crime from happening in the city, no.
Okay, so I thank you for that. I don't believe any crime is preventable personally, because the individual that's going to commit the crime, unless they intend on explaining to every other individual around them they're going to commit the crime, and someone tattles on them, it's not going to be really preventable. So assuming that the 24 units that is going to be coming to this property is going to increase the crime in that area is just a horrible, horrible argument, and a very judgmental argument as well.
Were we able, this is really a question for you, but were we able to hold those, you said it was a local owner?
No, it wasn't a local owner. They were
managed.
They had lots of apartment history. That's what they had.
Weren't they built Section 8 when they built them?
I don't think that they started out, but they might have. But it was downhill, not immediately.
I know. I
Not
remember
immediately.
well.
And it was a nice development for a while, and then it took a turn for.
Did we
the worse.
try to hold the owner accountable?
That was like the start of it, Jacob, and I won't even say the start, but that was the start of a situation that our city has struggled with ever since then. So it was something that should not have happened in our community. We have made headway since then to kind of correct that situation, starting back with Mayor Fowler and Michelle Jordan, but it's been a recovery issue ever since then. And again, we've put up cameras on the old Moulton Heights Road. We have done everything that we possibly could to stop people from dumping in that area, and it still goes on. There's the signs in that area are all shot up, and I guess my concern is that you wouldn't want to build not you, nobody here would want to build their home in that area because of the situation. And so for us to build apartments there and think that, we're going to attract the very best citizens in the city, that's just not the way that I see it.
I would say a residential home or something being on the property would be more of a deterrent from someone dumping there.
Well, I'm glad that in your long history of understanding this problem and you dealing with this, that you have an answer for this.
All right, any other discussion? Thanks, Danny. I have a motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Ordinance 234546 approved 4-1. Next is resolution 23016, approved request for special event retail liquor license for WIT LLC doing business as JW Steakhouse on behalf of the Alabama Center of the Arts at 133 2nd Avenue, Northeast, Decatur, Alabama 35601. Event date February 9th, 2023.
They're asking for approval for a special event retail liquor license.
All right, this is a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing now. If there's anyone here to speak. All right, we will consider the public hearing closed. I have a motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23016 approved 5-0. Resolution 23017 assessed $285 against 411 3rd Avenue Southwest for cost of abatement of nuisance.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23017 is approved 4-1. Resolution 23018, approve request for special use permit for AT&T to install equipment on an existing tower located at 105 CT 14th Street Southwest.
Good afternoon, President, Council, and Mayor. David Andrews with CMS. This resolution is for an application made by AT&T to co-locate or install their equipment on the existing tower at 105 14th Street Southwest. This will be a new service point for AT&T, so it should increase coverage and capacity to that area. It's a 119-foot tower. They're requesting to place 12 antennas on the tower to provide service. CMS has reviewed the application and recommends approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMasters. Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23018 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23019, approve request for special use permit for AT&T to modify equipment on an existing tower located at 2611B Highway 31 South.
Yes, sir. This is an application made by AT&T to modify an existing site. They are providing service from this site. Currently, they have 9 antennas mounted on the tower. They're requesting to remove 3 of those antennas and replace them with 6. The new antennas will be half-size antennas, so they'll only take up the spot of what they're taking down. This is being done for a 5G technology upgrade. CMS has reviewed the application and recommends approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMasters. Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23019 approved 5-0. Resolution 23020 approved request for special use permit for Verizon to install equipment on an existing tower located at 409 Bradley Street Southwest.
Yes, sir. This application is made by Verizon to install or co-locate on the existing tower at 409 Bradley Street Southwest. This is a 110-foot monopole tower. They're requesting to place 9 antennas on the tower to provide service. This will be a new service point for Verizon, so both capacity and coverage should be increased in the surrounding area for Verizon customers. CMS has reviewed the application and recommends approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMasters. Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23020 is approved 5-0. Thanks, David. Resolution 23021, authorize the purchase of a CAT D6 dozer for the landfill operation.
So moved.
Wanda Tyler landfill.
Sorry.
Recycling.
Motion,
That's okay,
motion by
eh?
Mr. Pepper.
We're in need of a dozer. This dozer, this D6 will be smaller than the other dozers that you've approved recently. And this will be one that we'll use for dressing and other things that we need when we need to take down the other dozer for maintenance or whatever needs to be.
And we have one, this is different than the one we rented last week, okay.
Yes.
All right, we do have a motion, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMasters. Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23021 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23022, approve Martin Aquatic for design of a master plan for Point Mallard Kid Play Area.
Alan Stover with the Community Development Department. This is for a grant that we applied for through the tourism, Alabama Tourism, and we're just requesting your approval to approve this agreement.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
It's 100% grant, correct, Alan?
Yes, sir.
For the design, yeah.
Yes.
Question last week was when was the duck pond, and we got an answer on that. 88 and 91 Smart Factory. All right. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 23022 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23023, approved partial bond reduction and refund for McGee Square Townhomes for completed portion of public improvements.
Yes, the McGee Townhomes project has completed a portion of the public improvements that we are holding a cash bond for. This has been reviewed by the engineering department and DU and given their approval, and the planning department has also given, the planning commission has also given their approval by vote. So this is the final step when we're holding a cash bond, is to release the funds.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper,
Has-
second by Mr. Pike.
I'm sorry.
No, discussion?
Has 50% of the work been completed?
The largest, the most expensive part was, there was some conduit that was needed for, it was listed on that, the 72,000. The rest that is outstanding is some sidewalk, a few other items listed in there. And engineering and DU have both reviewed it and said it is sufficient amount to cover the outstanding improvements left.
Okay, but we're effectively removing, what, about half of the?
A little more than half
Yeah.
of the work has been complete by price, not necessarily amount of work, but the most expensive item was ticked off their list.
Okay. So fiscally, if we're looking at it from a dollar perspective, they've done more than half of the work, is what you're saying?
From a dollar amount, yes, sir.
Okay.
Do we usually get cash bonds?
No, this is a rare circumstance where we got a cash bond. Most of the time, we receive a letter of credit or some other kind of bonding document. But with this being the amount, they just chose to go the cash route.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Roll call.
Hadner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23023 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23024, approved proposed site plan location for combined convenience and package store to be located at 914 19th Avenue Southeast.
Yes, this is a proposal for a new convenience store with a package store attached to it for this property. In order for them to move forward, being comfortable, paying for full engineering before they bring us a site plan, they requested that the council review granting the exceptions that are allowed in the zoning ordinance for placing a store that sells alcohol within 500 feet of an existing church building.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
I tried to reach out, Lee, to the pastor and could not reach out to him. Do you know if anyone spoke to the pastor of the church, Ken? In this
I haven't been involved.
This doesn't go by
Okay.
the zoning ordinance. This
Thank you.
comes straight to the city council.
Has anyone reached out to the pastor of the church to see what they're?
Not that I am aware of.
I've
No, sir.
received no feedback either.
I've not got any feedback, but it seems like we would at least reach out to the church and.
We don't typically by practice unless it's requested for some reason. This is just the standard exceptions that we have written in the ordinance for the council to consider.
Yeah, but we're
when
giving
this issue
exceptions, I
comes up.
guess, and with those exceptions being, granted, this church, it really means that this church could be impacted, otherwise the ordinance wouldn't be in place. And we're giving exceptions to that, and I fully understand what we're doing, but it seems like someone would have reached out to the church or to the pastor or someone and just said, hey, what are your thoughts on this?
We don't by practice just reach out to them for, a comment on that unless it is brought up for us to, in y'all's consideration for it, and that hasn't happened to this point. And so
And the exception is because you mentioned barriers.
There is, allowed in it is if it's within that 500 feet, it can be reduced if there are buildings between them that would effectively achieve the buffering or screening effect that the 500 foot is intended for.
I personally don't have a problem with it. I'll just be quite frank with you. I don't personally have a problem with it. I do, though, have concern that I think that we should at least have a conversation with them, make sure that they don't have problems with it because they're the ones going to be impacted by it. So even though I don't have a problem with it, I won't support it tonight based on that.
Lee, did we ever get an answer? Will they be demolishing the building that's on that site?
From the preliminary site plan that was presented, it does look like the existing building will go away to provide for parking and drive areas.
And there's an
around.
added turn lane off of Point Mallard, is that?
All of that will have to be worked out through the site plan process in consultation with the engineering department and our whole technical review process. None of that has occurred yet, so everything you're seeing on there is just preliminary for them to present to get these exceptions granted so that they can move forward with that full process.
But that yellow building will be demoed.
It looks like it from the preliminary site plan they have presented, yes.
I'll just say this, might not get support on it, but I would make a motion that we table this at least until we talk to the church or the pastor or somebody, just to get some sort of input from them, because again, I won't be impacted from it. I live on the other side of town, but they might be, so, and they might feel that they are. So I think we've got provisions in place to try to protect those things. So I would put it on the table to at least table that.
We have a motion to table, and I will say, I'm not going to second it because I don't think I'm supposed to, but I will support that if somebody wants to second it.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Pike. This is to table this issue until we can get maybe contact with them. No, not now that we have.
Okay, I just wanted to, I didn't know if I needed to like withdraw it or not.
You can withdraw the motion.
Oh, I withdraw my motion.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Jackson, a second by Mr. Pike to table. Any discussion? Do you see any, we're talking about trying to reach out. I think I agree with everything he said about it's within that barrier to a church, at least a discussion. I don't know that we're saying if they say no way, we don't want it, that we would deny it, but we need to inform them.
So would you like to table it till the 20th meeting and give us
I think
the
that's-
2
yeah,
weeks
that's
to
good.
try to
Yep.
make
I'm
contact?
good with the very next meeting, as long as we can contact them and have some sort of conversation with them. It doesn't matter when.
The distance on that was 430.
It's not quite 500 feet.
Right.
Yeah, it was
432
Okay,
and a half
432,
feet.
that's where I was getting. Okay, it's 432 and it needs 500, so it's 68. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, any discussion on the tabling? Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
That resolution 23024 will be tabled, vote of 5-0. Resolution 23025, approved purchase and installation of pedestrian crosswalk warning lights on 8th Street Southeast at Decatur Morgan General Hospital by Temple Inc.
Yeah, this was a request, I guess, came down with going with the hospital to try to put up the flashing beacons and crosswalk for their employees there on 8th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
I'll just say what I said last week. I drive through there multiple times a day. You do see them running across the street, so I think it's safe walkways. Great idea.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23025 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23026, approved street department engineering excavator purchase.
That's just purchasing a mini excavator for our street department.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23026 approved 5-0. Resolution 23027 approved Aldott City Agreements Lighting Project SR 20 US 31.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
I'm sure we covered it last week, but what is the reason that the state is not absorbing more of this or absorbing this?
We applied for a grant last, in '22, and we were not successful.
So, again, this is a state highway.
And state lights.
And I'm just wondering why they wouldn't, and I understand we applied for a grant and didn't get it, but why will they not absorb the cost of this versus the citizens of Decatur when, you know, they don't absorb the cost on our local residential roads? And I'm just trying to figure out why they...
Probably because they like to take our money, not spend it.
I was told that Aldott, this is not a good answer, but does not like to spend money on lighting. So it is, for me, I completely agree. It is their responsibility. They should have fixed them a long time ago, and they should extend them as well.
Yes.
But at this point, in my opinion, it's a safety issue.
And if they're not
They
doing-
also disagree with that comment, but we need to, somehow it needs to be provided to the citizens, and I think we're in a long uphill battle if we just ask Aldott.
I think it's
But
been a
agree.
safety, I think it's been a safety issue and should have been handled prior to now, so.
Yeah, but a good question for our legislators. to help us with. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Aye. Pepper.
Aye.
All right, turn the page too fast. Resolution 23027 is approved 4-1. Resolution 23028 approved the placement of rubber safety surfacing at Delano Playground.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
I mean,
Kyle, what's the funding source of this?
Unassigned fund balance.
I went by and I looked at it, and this is, it's not a good situation at all. It's actually a sort of a dangerous situation for some of the kids on the playground. I guess the thing that came to my mind, and then my question was, why didn't we budget for this?
Well, it has been in our capital budget.
I mean, but we,
I can give you somewhat of an answer. I don't know that we were aware that it was a request. I didn't go by and look at it till it became a request, and when it came was well after we budgeted. So that's all I could. The reason it came to the agenda is because I was informed by people involved with Delano that it was an issue,
Okay.
but I was not informed of that before budget.
That's how we had an idea on the figures, was that it had been in our capital.
I'm definitely going to support this because I think it's a dangerous situation. We've got patches out of there that, some of those patches are 2.5 feet long, and we've got kids who are playing on that right now. So, but I would like to see that budgeted from this point on. I don't like spending from unassigned, but I will, because of the safety issue associated here, and the fact that it should have been in our budget, I will support it tonight, though.
But you said it was in your capital budget.
But not in the approved.
Not in the approved capital budget.
It's in Parks and Rec's capital plan, which I think you would agree has a lot of stuff on it that's not in the budget, but it's in the capital plan. You guys knew it was a need, it just didn't.
It's
get
definitely a
brought
need.
up. Yeah.
I went by yesterday, and with that weather, there were people everywhere, so it's not getting used any less. So we definitely need to do what we can to take care of Delano.
We'll do one color on it this time too, to where the pebble that's in it, it won't, when we do the patch, it won't look
Like it does now.
All right, any other discussion? Thanks, Jason. All right, we got a motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Pike. Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23028 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23029, award bid number 23004 for pond management services to Aqua Services.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper,
Second.
second by Mr. Pike. Charles,
Oh, come on.
This is for treatment of the pond over at Wilson Morgan. It's about 10 grand for the initial treatment, 4,400 each quarter after that.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23029 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23030, authorize the mayor to apply for Rebuild Alabama Act grant for intersection improvements at Old Moulton Road and the Beltline.
Alan Stover with the Community Development Department. This is just an application that we're prepared to submit to AlDOT for the intersection improvements at Old Moulton and 67. The city's cost is going to be estimated to be somewhere around $717. I think that may be a little high, but we'd rather be on the high side as the low side. So, and then the city would receive $250 from the state. Again, this will be a locally let project if awarded, so we won't have to go through the state for any approvals or anything. So that may help hold the cost down some.
Funding source unassigned if we do it.
Unassigned, if awarded.
And Carl, are we seeing a lot of issues out there?
Guess during peak hours, yes, there's a lot of stacking. I guess that's going northbound-ish on Old Moulton, especially in the morning times, people coming to work, it stacks up pretty bad.
But just peak hours?
Yeah, mainly it's a peak hour issue, but yeah, when it does happen, it backs up for a quarter mile-ish. It's pretty bad.
What about the number, Carl?
I mean, I know what our engineers are shooting high with today's costs, construction costs. They've been, and even maybe been low a lot lately. Being a locally let project, I think that cost is a little on the high side, but I can understand where the company that did it would be a little gun shy these days.
So moved. Oh, sorry.
Motion by Mr. Pepper. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
And this is strictly for the application, correct?
It is from, yes, sir. It's for the application.
When are those awarded?
It's due next week. So I would assume probably early summer, June, July, what I would assume.
Okay.
We could probably get it in, I mean, if it is awarded June, July, by the time we bid it, got everything, it would probably be in next year. We could put it in next year's budget.
Carl, you think it is needed? If it was just, is it needed or not?
With some of the potential and some of the growth out there, with the change of the traffic patterns, with the new high school, with our new softball facilities, the stuff that's going out there new, I think it would be a worthwhile project. Yes.
Several developments behind Deerfoot adding housing. Okay.
Well, okay. You just completely changed my mind. I mean, I was very hesitant on this one because we've done such a good job budgeting lane changes and road improvements and everything else. But if I got the expert sitting here saying
I think it's a viable project.
It's a $1 million turn lane, and we can get it in next year's budget, or maybe look at it at mid-year, I can support it. But that's an awful big chunk to come out.
Is it both sides though?
No, it's just the south side. That's why I said, my opinion, I think it should come in significantly less than that.
I drive it every day going to Ben Davis, but that side is, in my opinion, more needed than the other. You don't see much stacking at all on the other side. All right, any other discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23030 approved 5-0. Resolution, thanks Alan. Resolution 23031 approved contract with First Due, a software company that provides RMS, which also includes fire and EMS incident reporting software.
Good evening, Mayor, Council.
That's a good description. You don't even have to say anything.
This resolution, as President just read, will just allow us to go into contract with First Due. That'll provide us a new records management system and allow us to keep up the state EMS requirements through our reporting system.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Widener.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23031 is approved 5-0. Resolution 23032 approved DDRA bicycle stations agreement. Ms. Thomas? Last week you were first.
Just to remind, she'll be last.
Save the best for last. Kelly Thomas, Decatur Downtown Redevelopment. We're asking the city to allow us to contract with Tandem Mobility to put bike share stations in downtown Decatur on public sidewalks and also at Point Mallard Park. This will be covered by Blue Cross Blue Shield sponsorship at $30,000 for the first year and will be up for renewal after a year.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
Kelly, there's no cost to the city, correct?
No cost to the city. Y'all will actually earn revenue off of the rentals.
Which could be used towards future expansion, or if we were to not get a sponsor.
I just wanted to add, I thought this was kind of funny. About 5 minutes prior to the meeting, I received 2 text messages from different families that were very interested to know if the bicycle stations have passed or not. They were looking forward to it and said that we had not entered the meeting yet. So there's 2 families it's only 2 families, but that's a lot to me that are watching this. So it feels good to know that there's support for bicycle station.
We're excited about it too.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Sorry. Go ahead.
So you'll get receive funding every 2 weeks, and then we'll receive it quarterly, is that?
Yes, so
Okay.
the revenue would come directly to DDRA through the third-party payment app Stripe, and then we would cut a check to the city each quarter.
So a way to set that money aside that we receive for renewal in the next year?
We would have to earmark it to a specific.
We can do a resolution later that will do what you just described. That's what you want to do. You can know what, how you want to define it. Do that. And I'm sure,
He don't like it.
I'm sure Kyle will join, talk about it.
Worth discussion at a different time.
I said if they.
It's hard to say, because you don't know what that amount's gonna be at all. I mean, it's pure speculation at this point.
All right, any other discussion? All right, roll call.
Whiteman.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Klein.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 23032 is approved 5-0. Ordinance's first reading, ordinance 234550, amend transient occupancy tax ordinance.
That's what you described in the work session previously. We had 3% in the city and 1.5 outside the city to the occupancy.
And designated for recreation and economic
That
development.
is correct, yes, very good.
Out of curiosity, oh wait, we open for comments now?
If you have a comment.
Sorry, I know it's only a first reading. Since this has been up for discussion, have we received any opposition from any of the business owners throughout the city or in the PJ?
I have not, and I've talked to a handful of them.
Hospitality, I know you're on the board. Have you heard any?
Don's in the back holding up the
Do you
wall.
want to?
There was no comments or feedback at the association.
Yeah, I actually went and spoke to them and had a good conversation with them after, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Pepper. Any other discussion on that? All right, next council work session will be held on February 13th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Next regular council meeting will be held on February 20th, 2023 at 10 a.m. Department directors, anything else from you or managers? Mayor?
No, sir.
Anything else from council?
Yeah, I wanted to give hospitality a tip of the hat. You know, we had Ciota was in here talking about heads in beds last week with us, and hospitality ponied up, and so did tourism. So that's very refreshing to see.
Yeah, I think I might have put you on blast a little bit last week, so I apologize. But I echo what Mr. McMaster said. Thank you in the group, and let them know we're very appreciative of their investment in that project. So.
Ms. Tate actually spoke at that same meeting last week, and I didn't know I was gonna be following her, but I think I spoke more about the Scottsboro Boys Museum and the Ciota project probably than the lodging tax, but. Good.
All right, anything else? All right, we'll stand adjourned. Thanks.